Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Fortnite tips and tricks video. In tonight's video, I'm going to be giving you guys 4 tips and tricks and 4 focus areas to make you a god at Fortnite Battle Royale after the latest patch where they basically changed it from being 500 mats back up to 999 and also changed the way that you don't get the 50 health and shield per kill. So we're going to talk about how that has changed the gameplay pace and some tips and tricks on how to adjust to that and also win games. Hope you guys will enjoy this video. If you guys could drop a like on thing, that would be much appreciated. Smash that like button. It only takes a second and it really does help me keep motivated and I really do appreciate it as a content creator. Also subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and not already subscribed, and let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is about the gameplay pace. Now, because you don't get that extra 50 health and shield off of every single kill, and because mats are harder to gain just because the 40% increased farm rate was taken away in return for now you can have 999 instead of 500. So basically the gameplay pace, this has made hot drops a lot tougher, and going tilted towers and stuff like that, there's a lot more RNG involved in this game now, because off the spawn you can't just fight or you can't just outskill players to get shield. You literally have to find that shield. And of course, having good skill is still obviously a positive and a plus because you can kill players and get loot that way, but of course it's not the main way that you're going to be getting loot and different stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, this gameplay pace, what has changed and what is my first tips and trick to adjust to the gameplay pace? The first thing is, honestly, you need to farm up big time. There's a lot more RNG and you can't control the game. You can't rely just on being a good player. If you are fighting a lot of players in the mid to late game, yes, you will usually get mats because those players will have it. But of course, sometimes if you go into a fight and you kill a player and he doesn't have mats, then you're pretty much out of luck, right? So farming up mid game is definitely a key. The good thing is, I know a lot of people don't like this update, but the good thing about the 999 mat count is that you can definitely farm. There's no excuse not to farm up wood, and whenever you're going past some good bricks to farm up or stones or a rock garden or something like that, definitely be sure to farm that up. So the first change I would say, and the first tips and trick, is farm up big in that mid game. It's really important. Running around trying to find players to kill is awesome. You can still play that style, but while you're doing it, you have to make sure if you're passing by free loot, just be smacking those trees and smacking those rocks when you go by. So when you do get into a fight, no matter what happens, no matter if you kill that player and they don't have mats because you burned a lot in that fight, or if you burn a lot of mats but you're unable to get a kill and both players escape, you know, that guy maybe jump pads out of the way, you run to the zone or something like that, it's always important to be farming up mats. So that is my first tip. It's not like before where you could basically just rely on fighting players and then farm up real quick late game because it was plus 40%. You actually have to take your time and farm up, and then once you have a decent amount for the mid game, I'm comfortable with, like, you know, I'll try to get 600, 700 wood, and then I'm going to fight and I'm going to gain mats that way. But if you're going into late game and you're not sure if you're going to get a kill, you need to take that time and farm. Take that time out of your day to farm because the opportunity cost of that, while you may miss out on some kills, you're going to need that going into the late game, and that's a guaranteed way to know that you're going to have a good chance in late game. So that's my first tips and trick. Next thing is cost reward has completely changed, and before you really didn't have to worry too much about burning through mats because they were much quicker to farm up and because you couldn't hold nearly as many, right? So if you have 500 mats, I burned through all of them, I could farm up 500 wood very quick because of the plus 40%. Now if I have 999 mats and I burn through all of them, it's going to take you forever to get back to that max amount. So definitely the gameplay change here, I'll say, for tip number 2 is you have to pay attention to your cost reward on different stuff like that. And for example, big build fights really aren't positive anymore because both players end up burning mats. You'll probably, if you're going in a big build fight, it's probably against a decent player. So most of the time, even if you do win the gunfight, you know, you're going to either win or lose. But if you win the gunfight / build battle, you're going to probably take damage, at least some sort of damage from a decent player, unless you play it perfectly. And that, of course, is just going to be another negative. So picking your fights is so important now. And the motivation for going for big build fights, it's more selective. And I think that whenever you start building up with a player, it's smart to rethink something, maybe drop down, maybe try to bait that player in and take on the fight in a different approach, because I think that You never know. Obviously, if someone's going into a build fight with you and they're building up high, you know a couple things. You can assume a couple things. Maybe they have a glider redeploy and maybe they have a lot of mats. Of course, those things don't have to be true, but those are some things to think about. And I think with the decision making, what this has really changed is you need to be preserving mats for late game just like before, but especially if you're in these huge build fights late game and you don't have that many extra shields, you need to get out of there or play it smart, because if you get cracked, even if you do win, you're going to lose the game just by chasing off one kill. And each kill you get is only worth one kill, whether it's a build fight that takes 1,500 of your mats and you get cracked for 190 health, or you kill a noob who's sitting in a corner with a trap. It still counts as one kill. And so that's basically what I say as far as that for my second tip. The third thing I want people to focus on is third partying. Third partying is something that's always annoying, and on this patch update, it's much easier to get third partied, because even if you are in a fight with 1v1 with a player and then you kill that player, you don't get those extra heals, so the third party approaching has an advantage. And that's why on the counter, how can you use this for positive? What is my tip for this? Whenever you hear two people fighting, and you can pay attention to the kill feed to see, you can obviously pay attention to the audio cues to see which weapons are being fired. You can hear, I hear like he has a gold or purple pump, I hear a P90, I hear an AR or an AK, and you can sort of tell based off those sounds. If a lot of shots are being fired, it sounds like they're really close. They probably did take damage. And once you see that pop up in the kill feed that one of the players has been killed, usually that player is going to try to loot the guy and then try to shield up. So after this patch update, because they don't get that extra 50 health, third partying is even more important to make sure you're pushing that and pushing the tempo while you are, when two players are fighting. And especially once you see something pop up in that kill feed, that is a major thing to pay attention to. The last thing, and my fourth and final tips and tricks I want to talk about, is the glider redeploy. And what do I think of it now? Now, before this update, I talked about the glider redeploy and how important I thought it was for late game and how amazing it was. Now, because you don't get 50 health or shield for every single kill, you honestly need to carry more shields or health if you want to be active and be fighting, such as in this gameplay here, where I end up getting a 10 kill win. You can see here I'm carrying a med kit just because I want to be active, I want to be fighting, and no matter what, if I get hit here, I know I can regain my health back up to 150. Worst case scenario, as long as, of course, I have time to pull off the heals and different stuff like that. So my fourth tip and my fourth thing that I think people should focus on after this patch update is glider redeploys. They still are awesome, but if you can go with double heals, I think that is probably a better way to go, depending on the scenario and depending on the zone. If you're playing a zone that is up, and say it's by Pleasant Park where there's those 2 or 3 big mountains, yeah, a zone like that, it's probably smart to still carry gliders. But with glider redeploy combined with 999 mats is insane, because you can just camp up on the high ground all day. But at the same time, if you do get hit, you can't just kill enemies to get your heals back. And if you're trying to play active and fight a lot of players, sometimes double heals is probably the way to go instead of that. So those are the 4 things that I think are the best to focus on. One more thing to go along with gliders is jump pads in replacement, because I still carry gliders occasionally, but definitely not as much as before this update. Jump pads are absolutely amazing. And my tip with jump pads is feel free to use them. I'll use them mid-game. Sometimes if I crack a guy for a lot of health, say I hit a guy for like 100 or 120 or something, I'll probably jump pad to him if needed to close the gap to go and get that kill. But late game, they're just so amazing for the early rotations. And the early rotation and build up a base strategy is a lot more prevalent now. That sort of went away when it was back to 500 mats, because you can't really build a metal base. You're going to use all your metal to do that. So now you can see here, of course, I know I don't have glider redeploy, so I decided to go down instead of going up there. Obviously, I have 1500 mats, so my mass is not a problem. And this is where you can see farming up, making sure that, I was farming mid-game. I'm also getting kills and looting players, so I have sort of all hands on deck, and I'm able to get a bunch of materials here. This guy, of course, knocks me down. For a second, I was worried because I had the low ground on this player, so I play it smart. I take my time, and you usually want to try to bait the enemies into dropping down, and then, of course, I take the high ground. He goes for the shot, and when you do that, sometimes you end up losing the high ground. I just try to keep building in. This guy, of course, goes up high once again. Basically, this is where he drops down, headshot with the shotgun, and this is what I'm talking about with the slurp juices, where I see the last player here is in a hamster ball, and obviously this guy probably should have, speaking of my tips and tricks where I talk about third partying, this guy, as soon as he saw that name pop up in the kill feed that I'd got the kill, he should have started shooting at me, because I was 50 health, right? I didn't get any health or shield from that. This guy took his time. I don't know what he was doing, playing super safe in the hamster ball, allowed me to pop my double heals, which I was rocking with, and now by the time we fight, I have a big advantage because I've healed all of that. You know, he could have took an advantage of me playing sort of, I guess you could say, aggressive, although I was just trying to move to the zone, but by playing and fighting in kills when he was just sort of camping out and rotating in a hamster ball. Anyway, it ends up working out. I get the high ground, and I'm able to pick off this player when I drop down and get the 10 kill win. So those are definitely some things to focus on in this latest patch update. I'm not sure if these changes will happen, if they will revert it. I'm not sure. I think maybe some adjustments will happen, but of course we'll have to talk about that in the future. Hopefully this video did help you guys out, and those are some things to focus on, I think, and maximize to make sure you are getting solo wins and winning more games after this patch. Thanks for watching, guys. Drop a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.